In fact, Fanxian didn't know that what he was practicing was an extremely profound internal skill. If he were an ordinary warrior, he would practice it with extreme caution, and he would definitely ask his teacher or a trustworthy friend to help take care of him. The most difficult and dangerous part of this skill is at the entrance. When you want to accumulate merit into the Dantian Snow Mountain, the reaction speed of the practitioner's body and mind will be greatly different. The most direct consequence is the practitioner's physical function. It will become like an immobile vegetative state. If a practitioner is inexperienced at this time, it is easy to mistakenly think that he has gone crazy and forcefully admit the true energy into the house. If he is lucky, an extremely powerful practitioner may incorporate the true energy running around in the body into the meridians. But this means that practicing Qigong has no effect at all. If you are a beginner, you may be frightened by this, leading to the invasion of real inner demons. For a beginner like Fanxian, not only did he not go crazy, but he could experience that mysterious feeling more easily than the experts. This was due to his life experience and luck. Because when he started to practice this nameless Qi, the body he was living in was still a baby, and the innate Qi brought from the mother's body had not yet been completely returned to the world and all living things, and still stayed in his body. So he started practicing get twice the result with half the effort, and even miraculously retain most of the innate true energy in his own meridians. As for the inner demons that practitioners are most likely to encounter, it is not too difficult for Fanxian. Don't forget that in his previous life, Fanxian had been lingering on the hospital bed for several years. He had long been accustomed to the fact that his brain could not control his body, so when he encountered this situation for the first time, he did not panic, but found a way to find it. The warmth of residual memories from the past. So when he first started practicing, when the Qi started to move around as soon as he felt it, making his body unable to move, he was not very scared. Because he was fearless and had no distracting thoughts, he easily passed the most difficult hurdle. Since then, practice has become simpler. As long as he recites the technique silently, he will naturally enter a meditative state. So for Fanxian, his daily nap is very sweet and will never wake him up. It is extremely difficult for ordinary practitioners to enter a meditative state because it requires chance and coincidence. The practice of taking a nap as a meditation every day like this child is really an indescribable luxury. God really favored him. When I woke up, I rolled my fresh and cute little face in the towel in the hand of the maid's sister, which was considered as washing my face. In the afternoon, I began to study in the study room with the teacher specially invited from Donghai County by the Earl's mansion. The teacher was not very old, probably in his 30s, but his body smelled of old age. A literary reform took place in the Qing dynasty as early as 10 years ago. It started with a preliminary discussion on literary reform written by Mr. Hu, the official of the Wenj Pavilion. Today's literary field is the battlefield where ancient prose and modern prose are fighting. The so-called ancient prose refers to the classical Chinese in Fanxian's memory, while the modern prose is somewhat like vernacular, except that the diction is more refined. Fanxian's teacher is a fan of the ancient literature school, so he teaches Fanxian what scriptures to read every day. Although these scriptures are not quite the same as the 4 books and 5 classics in Fanxian's world, the wonderful thing is that there are many contents and meanings. The difference is not too big. There are also differences between Confucianism, Moism, legalism, and Taoism. So much so that when Fanxian attended the class for the first time, he began to wonder where he was. The summer was hot and stuffy, and the study room was steaming with steam. The teacher pushed open the south window, and the sound of cicadas outside the window could be heard, and with the breeze, it was extremely beautiful. The husband looked back and saw that his primary school student was lying on the table in a daze. He was about to reprimand him, but when he looked at that beautiful little face, he felt soft for some reason. The teacher actually admired himself as a primary school student. At such a young age, he actually spoke clearly and could understand some of the minor words and righteousness of the predecessors recorded in the book. It was really not easy for a 4-year-old naughty boy. The teacher himself also had doubts. He thought that Count Sinan was too impatient and the requirements in his letter to him were too high. He had no choice but to start teaching scriptures to 4-year-old children with yellow mouth. In an ordinary family, at this age, they would just learn some words and learn from childhood. After the teaching was finished, Fan Xian bowed to his husband very politely, and then respectfully waited for him to leave the study first. Then he took off his sweat-soaked coat and ran out of the study, making the maid behind him anxious all the way. He shouted to be careful and followed him all the way. After entering the main courtyard, Fan Xian immediately stopped, with an innocent and lovely smile on his face, and staggered in like a little adult. When he saw the old lady sitting in the center, he began to make milking noises.
Nike sao Tết, gơ răng mà.
The old lady has a kind face, and her deep wrinkles are full of traces of time. Only the occasional look in her eyes lets others know that this old lady is actually quite extraordinary. It is said that Earl Sinan can be where he is today. The old lady's relationship in Kyoto is inseparable. What did you learn today? Fan Xian stood in front of the chair obediently, finished explaining what his husband taught him, then bowed and went to the side courtyard to have dinner with his sister. The old lady and her grandson seemed very strange to each other. I don't know if it's because Fan Xian is an illegitimate child. Although the old lady doesn't abuse him, she always has very high demands on him, so he always feels a little unfamiliar. Fan Xian still remembered that when he was only 1 year old, the old lady in front of him hugged him and cried late at night. The old lady naturally did not expect that a 1-year-old baby could understand her words, and she kept silently memorizing her words. Child, if you want to blame it, blame your father. Poor little guy. His mother died just after he was born. Life experience? This is a huge question in Fan Xian's mind. He encountered a sniper attack when he first arrived in this world. Although he now knows that his father is Count Sinan, a high-ranking official in Kyoto whom he has never met before, who is his mother? At that time, Earl Sinan was still in the army following His Majesty the Emperor's Western expedition, so the killers naturally targeted his mother. But his body is a soul belonging to another world, so it is naturally impossible for him to have any father-son affection for Count Sinan whom he has never met. He only occasionally thinks of the woman who has left this world, his nominal mother.